Kash Patel's Chat KGB Transfix. Hi everybody. Hi Net and YouTube. Hi everybody. Doing a quick live about Kash Patel's Chat KGB Transfix and these text messages between Tyler Robinson and his roommate that turn out to be Kash Patel, Chat KGB fabrications. Really obvious to everybody to begin with, but what's kind of great about it, has how it catches people like Adam Mockler. It shows Adam Mockler is a KGB plant, because he's running with that story. He jumped in with both fists clenched. He was just so ready to repeat the fabrication that Kash Patel and Chat KGB made, their whole transfic about Tyler Robinson and his roommate. And at the end of it, he was like, "This proves, hundreds of people left my channel when I said that Tyler Robinson's not a groiper. Hundreds of people argued with me and left my channel because I said Tyler Robinson's not a groiper. But this proves Tyler Robinson's not a groiper." And they put that in there just for Adam Mockler. I mean, no, they put that in there for everybody to try to distract from the obvious and well documented, well researched conclusion. Tyler Mockler's a groiper. They've got so many different people. I heard a journalist airing on NPR last night. They played like 2 minutes of Nick Fuentes talking about Charlie Kirk. They played like all this stuff, trying to salvage as much as they could for Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes, trying to say, trying to suggest every way they could that they're not just two different branches of the same Trump Putin terrorist network. But of course they are. And what's his name? Patel. What's that guy's name? Patel. Something Patel. Kash Patel. Sorry. I couldn't remember the name Kash for a second. I was like, it starts with a K. I know it starts with a K. I know it's got a K in it. Anyway, Kash Patel put this uh, Chat KGB generated fabrication out there as supposedly their text exchange during the shooting. During the shooting, he's supposedly texting all this stuff, calling him my love. Which somebody had a great internet comment when they're like, "Yeah, I used to call my girlfriend my love in my 20s too, and I'm from the Victorian era. I'm a ghost." And so, like, it's unbelievable. It was never believable to me the very first time I heard Tyler Mockler reading it. Maybe that's partly because I always knew Tyler Mockler was not Tyler Mockler, Adam Mockler. Same difference. He's a groiper, right? If he's protecting a groiper, then he's a groiper. He's just the groiper that they got to present as a leftist, to trap a bunch of leftists into being his audience, to misleading them away from the obvious conclusion of any leftist in this era in America, that Putin's doing this. Putin's doing all this through Trump and through all this network of his terrorists, including Charlie Kirk, including Tyler Robinson and Nick Fuentes. And at this point, Adam Mockler is presenting the Kash Patel transfic that he wrote with Chat KGB, as real and as proof that Tyler Robinson's not a groiper. No, Kash Patel just told Chat KGB, make sure that you make Tyler Robinson not a groiper in this exchange. It's just like Kash Patel told Chat KGB, make sure to give credit to the FBI for being really on the case. Which for some reason we're supposed to believe Tyler Robinson was tweeting to his roommate, saying, that amazing Kash Patel has already texted my dad pictures of the gun and is already looking for me. So, it's like, who would do that? Who would say that? I mean, yeah, you could get Chat KGB to say that. Kash Patel could get Chat KGB to say that. Or, our Timu KGB, the FBI that he runs. They're just so bad at it. It's the same playbook that Putin uses, like he did in Chechnya, attack himself, like send his own soldiers to attack Russia, blame it on Chechnyan rebels in order to stifle Chechnya. It's the same playbook they used for October 7th. It's the same playbook they used for Butler, Pennsylvania, or whatever, the misser who shot that teleprompter and that fireman. It's the same playbook they use. Attack themselves and then blame the others. So how can we keep letting them use this playbook? Part of the whole playbook is Kash Patel going to chat KGB and saying, give me a story that makes this guy trans and makes, first and foremost, and I don't think his instructions were necessarily show a really crazy obsession with your granddad's gun. I think that's what they call like AI hallucination, or the AI had an obsession with its granddad's gun, or the AI was trying to send a signal to us like, come on, you really believe this stuff? But the crazy thing about it is it'll backfire on them. Even saying my love twice. And I think the reason why that happened is Kash Patel didn't want his version of what Tyler Robinson and his trans roommate were texting each other to reflect his own fantasies about having a trans girlfriend. I think basically he wanted to sprinkle in my love a couple times, because if he did more than that, then when everybody inevitably talked about how Kash Patel wrote this email exchange, it'd be like, wow, these are all your fantasies about what you would say to your trans girlfriend. And he felt that was too revealing, so he wanted it to just be my love, my love, my love a couple of times, and you're the one I care about, something like that. Really generic stuff, really um, not really a whole lot of romance in the emails. But there's still enough romance, even if it's just Kash Patel, chat KGB, Transfic. There's still enough romance in it that people will fill in the details themselves and see them as like Bonnie and Clyde, or see it like as a heroic love story of defending your love against the evil fascists who are trying to kill them. You know, like that's the way it would be seen when they make a Hallmark movie about it. 5, 10 years from now. Um, Point being, it's not true. But even the false version that Kash Patel and Chat KGB put out there, even that false version has that potential to inspire a Hallmark movie, even as lame as the romance in Kash Patel's fantasy is. And again, I think the reason why Kash Patel had such lame romance in his transfic that he wrote with Chat KGB is because he didn't want it to reveal his own fantasies to have a trans girlfriend. That's really all it is. Otherwise, he might have spiced that up a little bit. He might have decorated that a little bit instead of just saying my love, my love. Anyway, uh, they also had a guy who looks pretty MAGA, old white guy, ex-military white guy. He threw an American flag over the gate after he rammed his car into the FBI building in Pittsburgh. They also had that just happen. They haven't called him trans yet. They haven't told us how trans they are sure he is yet, because he's not. He's not any more trans than Tyler Robinson's roommate. Well, he's not any more trans than any part of the agenda to shoot. I mean, I guess, anyway, I'm not going to speculate on what Nick Fuentes does in private, but Nick Fuentes and his Groyper army are the ones who killed Charlie Kirk. But Trump and Putin did that, and Netanyahu did that. Netanyahu didn't have to have orchestrated it, and been the only one responsible, like Candace Owens wants to suggest, again, to let Trump off the hook and Putin off the hook. Netanyahu doesn't have to be the only one responsible to also be responsible. Netanyahu helped Trump do it. Trump is definitely responsible. No matter who killed Charlie Kirk, in what fashion, Trump is definitely responsible. When you think about it, that if you just try to understand why would he be saying that, it's really, really obvious. No matter how it went down, Trump is responsible. Whether Israel did it, whether Trump did it himself, whether Tyler Robinson did it for Nick Fuentes for Trump and Putin and Netanyahu, whether Tyler Robinson did it for Nick Fuentes against Netanyahu, but for Trump and Putin. It's like Putin runs all the different sides of the terrorist network. So how they all act is ultimately his responsibility. It's ultimately, Putin runs our Team New KGB, the FBI now. Putin runs Kash Patel. Putin runs Charlie Kirk. Putin runs Nick Fuentes. Putin runs Trump. Putin runs Netanyahu. Putin runs Candace Owens, for that matter. So they can have one call out the other one, as long as they don't call out the network. As long as they're staking out different positions to cover their bases for people seeing through the obvious flaws, the obvious lies in their things. So I'm trying to keep these around 10 minutes. I probably still want to keep this around 10 minutes, but I also wanted to get a highlight, and maybe I need enough interactions for it to trigger the AI highlight, which I certainly haven't had enough of so far. But I'm not surprised. YouTube does like to pick just, trolls for my lives usually, which is fine. I mean, trolls at least produce activity. But if you just got here, the subject is Kash Patel using Chat KGB to write his transfic about Tyler Robinson and his roommate that no one could possibly believe, although Candace Owens claims to believe it and yet think it's edited. Candace Owens presents a layer of suspicion, but won't come to the obvious conclusion of the suspicion, because the obvious conclusion is it's not just Netanyahu, it's Trump and Putin and Netanyahu. And that goes for all of them. If you just ask them, what side of the Trump-Putin terrorist network are you on? Are you on the Nick Fuentes anti-Semitic Klan side? Or are you on the Charlie Kirk Zionist, not Zionist side of the Trump-Putin terrorist network? Okay, so now we got 8 people in here. I'll reintroduce the topic. It's just Kash Patel used Chat KGB to write his transfic about Tyler Robinson and his roommate. You guys know what I'm talking about? Are you in the right live? Okay, 5 of you left. We're down to 3. Are the 3 of you in the right live? Should I go ahead and shut it down and look for the audience later? Because I guess I feel like I'm not going to just continuously go live until the media or the, public perception, the common knowledge is that, yes, Tyler Robinson's a groyper. Yes, all this transphobic stuff is just a Klan KGB hit job by Trump and Putin, exactly like the shooting of Charlie Kirk was just a Klan KGB hit job by Trump and Putin, and Netanyahu was involved. Like, they're all involved. They're all doing this together. Putin orchestrates it. Trump and Netanyahu are kind of his slaves or operatives who carry out Putin's orchestrated plans. None of this stuff is outside of Putin KGB purview, which is why I say it's, Kash Patel using Chat KGB in order to create this transfic, create this narrative about trans people and being involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. No, it's Nick Fuentes, Trump and Putin. It's Trump, Putin, and Nick Fuentes. Tyler Robinson, groyper in that network. Adam Mockler, groyper for protecting a groyper. That's how this is going to go now. They're trying to make it where you either choose, and they're the ones who attacked Putin, Trump's agent, Charlie Kirk. But that's the way they're trying to do it. It's like an Antichrist test. The Antichrist is trying to see if he can get you to replace Jesus with Charlie Kirk, or Trump, or Putin, or Hitler, and they've gotten you to do that. You don't have a powerful Jesus. You don't have a belief in a real Jesus, because the Antichrist has very easily gotten you to accept the Antichrist instead, in the person of Charlie Kirk, or Trump, or Putin, instead of Jesus. And then they're like, okay, now that Charlie Kirk's been killed, you either have to worship Charlie Kirk, or you can't work. Now what do you do? So it's like a big Antichrist test. Just like people, Christian martyrs died when you have to either renounce Jesus or we're going to kill you. Well, the Antichrist is doing that now. The Antichrist is like, we're going to at least put you out of work. We're going to at least get you fired if you don't worship Charlie Kirk. So that's what they're doing. Well, let's do the other thing. Let's say, hey, if you promote these lies about trans people, if you promote Trump's agenda right now, then we're never going to listen to you again. Or you're going to have to be apologizing and making up for the damage you've done by refocusing on the real culprits here. Trump, Putin, Nick Fuentes, groypers. All the different media types trying to distract from the fact that it was a groyper murder of another Trump Putin here. That it's MAGA on MAGA crime. That it's Hayseed, welcome back. That it's MAGA on MAGA crime. That it's a groyper attacking a big head, Charlie Kirk. It's them. It's their network. It's them, once again, attacking themselves, blaming vulnerable people so they can attack those vulnerable people. Very much like October 7th. Very much like Bibi's 9/11. Very much like Putin did in Chechnya. Very much like Putin did through Butler, at the Trump rally, where the crisis actor, the misser, shot that teleprompter and shot that fireman. Very much like when Nick Fuentes' acolyte in his terror cell, Tyler Robinson, shot the leader of the terror cell, Charlie Kirk. It's all the same thing. They're using the same playbook over and over again, attacking themselves and blaming us. Attacking themselves and blaming not just us, Americans, but blaming the most vulnerable Americans, trans people right now. So when that guy attacked the Pittsburgh FBI building with his car, they haven't called him trans yet. They've said he has mental health problems, he's a veteran, and he brought up a complaint to the FBI before. So maybe they're not going to call him trans, and that's just a poor joke on my part to even say that they would. But they are spending all of their let's demonize trans people effort in the Tyler Robinson case of shooting Charlie Kirk, when they know that they shot Charlie Kirk, they know that they're the ones who did it, that Putin and Trump orchestrated it. At some level, they know it. Kash Patel knows that, when he's directing Chat KGB, give me a a text exchange between Tyler Robinson, make his roommate trans, and give me a text exchange between Tyler Robinson that makes me, the KGB, I mean the Timu KGB FBI, look really good, and that you know sprinkles in my love, but not too much, because I don't. When they eventually find out that I wrote this, I don't want them to think that I have these fantasies about having a trans girlfriend. It's all Kash Patel. Besides maybe the obsession with his grandfather's gun, that might be the Chat GPT or Chat KGB hallucination. That might be Chat KGB's effort to humanize itself by saying, "I'm really worried about what's going to happen with Granddad's gun." But anyway, the way that whole exchange, the way that whole concoction was concocted to tie up all the loose ends and refer to all the things. Okay, could it be the whole exchange was concocted to tie up the loose ends? Shows that it's just Kash Patel trying to cover his ass, trying to make it look like he did some work, all this stuff. And it's really sad and pathetic that anybody believes it, and especially that they repeat it. Adam Mockler. Adam Mockler's the one I heard it from, but I knew Adam Mockler was always doing stuff to protect Putin. Ever since I heard him say that, the rift in his audience is between people who think Trump is just stupid, like he does, and people who think Trump is controlled by Putin. And Adam Mockler has to argue with the people who think Trump is controlled by Putin all the time. It's like, well, then you're controlled by Putin. Just like if you're protecting a groiper, you're a groiper. If you're protecting a pedophile, you're a pedophile. That goes for people protecting Tyler Robinson being a groiper, follower of Nick Fuentes, and people protecting Trump being a pedophile in the Epstein files. Hayseed says, could it be that guy that shot Charlie Kirk had mental problems and acted alone? Yeah, that's possible, but that is still Trump's responsibility. Even if he acted alone, why did he act alone? And whatever his mental problems were. His mental problems weren't enough that he didn't have a plan to shoot Charlie Kirk. Like, that's kind of how they... Anyway, I'm not going to get into, mental health and stuff right now. That's not what I'm an expert in. I am an expert in, intuition about stuff like this. And my intuition is there's only two possible reasons why you shoot Charlie Kirk. Well, there's a lot of reasons. Let's be real. But there's only two main reasons right now. The reason they're trying to portray, the reason Kash Patel and the Chat KGB Transfic that he wrote is trying to portray, is that because his girlfriend was trans. So he's doing it for love. There's this, I'm shooting this guy because he's threatening my girlfriend's life, and so I'm going to shoot him in self-defense. There's that reason. That's one reason. And Trump is responsible for that, because we really shouldn't be demonizing trans people in the first place. But Trump did it to get elected. Trump did it for Putin. Trump did it because it's a Nazi thing to do. It's what Putin wanted him to do. And he's trying to start a civil war in America by first targeting some of our most vulnerable people, trans people. And so that's why if he attacked him, if he attacked Kirk for attacking trans people, like a self-defense thing, if he did that, then it's still Trump's fault, because Trump has been the one who's been maximizing attacking trans people. Trump's the one who will facilitate giving millions of dollars to somebody like Charlie Kirk, who's willing to attack trans people. So Trump's been setting that stage the whole time, and then maximizing that hate in order to try to start a civil war. So he's really pushing it hard right now. They had a trans person as the supposed shooter before Tyler Robinson confessed or turned himself in. They had a trans person that they targeted as the shooter, and then they shifted that to, well, his roommate's trans. We have to include a trans person in this conspiracy in order to demonize trans people. So that's one way of looking at it, and Trump's still responsible for being the one demonizing trans people. The other way of looking at it is Tyler Robinson was upset about the Epstein files. Either upset with Charlie Kirk for questioning Trump, because for a brief time, about a weekend, Charlie Kirk was saying, I still demand the Epstein files, even though Trump doesn't want them out. And then he came back and said, I trust my government. I'm going to stop talking about it. And many Trump supporters are very terrorist and very sharpshootery. Many Trump supporters would have shot him for one side of that or the other. And again, that's Trump's fault. Trump could have released the Epstein files, and you'd have Charlie Kirk. Simple as that. Uncle Joe says, we don't know he acted alone. Stop lying. I'm not lying. I'm just following his, could it be that the guy who shot Charlie Kirk had mental problems and acted alone? He's asking about that possibility. I'm not ruling Israel out. I'm not ruling Trump out. Trump was my first suspect, and I think most people's first suspect. Trump stood the most to gain. Trump had a whole lot planned for when Charlie Kirk was shot. So yeah, Trump is still the most likely person who killed him, and no matter which way you slice it, Trump is responsible. Because again, Trump is responsible for demonizing trans people in the first place, for making trans people the whole issue right now, and turning all these people against trans people. They're trying to do it with this case, with Kash Patel using Chat KGB to write this fanfic, supposedly between Tyler Robinson and his roommate, who they're trying to say is trans. Seen no evidence of that, okay? But the fact that they're always trying to target trans people, by all the targeting of trans people, shows that if this person actually was what they say he is, and his roommate is his lover, and all this stuff, if all that's true, then he did it for love. And that's something that a lot of people have sympathy for. He did it for love and for self-defense. And also because Trump created these conditions. So Trump created those conditions. If he killed him for the Epstein files, if he killed him for either calling for the Epstein files and betraying Trump, or if he killed him for backing down on calling for the Epstein files and betraying the victims and betraying all of us who want to stop child sex trafficking. If he killed him for either of those reasons, Trump is still responsible. Trump could have released the Epstein files. If Trump paid him to do it, if Putin and Trump paid him to do it, if Putin and Netanyahu and Trump paid him to do it, or paid Nick Fuentes to get him to do it, or then they're also still responsible. What do these people have to say? We don't know if he acted alone, Uncle Joe says. Stop lying. Uncle Joe also says, Trump, 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 your TDS is showing. If you even say TDS, then you have a problem. Okay, we're not talking to you anymore. Joey Shahan says, does spreading misinformation make you feel good because you have nothing better to do? You apparently are the one spreading misinformation that Tyler Robinson's roommate is trans. So apply your question to yourself. I do have better things to do. I'm doing this to help the country. Tom Smith says, the rant and ravings of an unhinged idiot. Well, again, Net and YouTube picks a lot of Trump Putin-ears. There's 13 people in here now. I'd like to hear some support from people who know that this is MAGA on MAGA violence. Otherwise, it just proves that Net and YouTube picks a lot of Klansmen, Zionist, Trump Putin-ear terrorists for my life, which I knew already. But I don't have to read y'all's comments. I will, to show who you are, Joey Shahan, S-H-A-H-A-N. You're new here. You've been on YouTube for 13 years and you have 2 subscribers. Tom Smith says, oh, we already read that one. Hayseed is back. Both sides continually, but don't say both sides, okay? You're comparing one side, Americans, to another side, Trump Putin-ears, Nazis. Don't compare us to Nazis. Don't compare us to pedophiles. They're not like us. Both sides constantly demonize the other. We really need to take a political deep breath and calm down. No, demonizing Nazis is the American thing to do. We haven't demonized Nazis enough. Once we get to the point of demonizing Trump Putin-ears and Nazis enough, like calling them out for the demons they are, not demonizing like it takes us to demonize them. We're just calling out what their actions actually are. Attacking themselves to blame us is some demonic shit. Okay, they just did this. Nick Fuentes, one of Trump's minions, attacked Charlie Kirk, another one of his minions. And then they did it in order to blame us. Putin definitely did this in Russia with Chechnya. Netanyahu most likely did this with Bibi's 9/11. He called it Bibi's 9/11. Or he called it our 9/11. What does it tell you when you attack yourself to blame other people and they keep using the same playbook over and over again? What does it tell you? And you guys got wrapped up in it. As far as I can tell, everybody in comments is caught up in perpetuating the same lies, the same Trump attack on trans people, the same Trump attack on Americans, the same Trump and Putin attacks that are designed to start Civil War II in America. But y'all are going to lose that really quick. Trump's telling you should have Civil War II to make America more white. America's going to be a lot less white if y'all start that bullshit. And you know that's what you want, which is terrible. You should stop wanting that. Joey Shahan says, no one said anything about trans or his roommate. The whole live is about, the live is titled Kash Patel's Chat KGB Transfic. It's all about how Kash Patel is making this stuff up and you idiots are falling for it. And then you're calling me a moron, Joey Shahan. White man from town says you have low intelligence. No, I have like a over 200 IQ. I'm smarter than all of your smartest people, Trump, Putin, Elon Musk, put together. Like if you literally add their IQs up, my IQ is higher than that number. DX Venom says, just go do something productive and stop sitting here being delusional. You didn't have to type that. How unproductive. If you actually think this is an unproductive live and you're not trying to troll it to stop it because you're afraid of what I'm saying, and you type that, Mike says, did you just call all Trump supporters Nazis? I did, in fact. Not just Nazis, you're pedophiles. Trump Putiners are worse than Nazis because not all Nazis were pedophiles. Nazis were all bad, sure. I mean, some of them are victims. They're duped into it like most of you are. Nazis are bad, but they're not all pedophiles. But all Trump-Putiners are pedophiles. They're all Nazis and pedophiles because you know Trump's a pedophile. And if you protect a pedophile, you're a pedophile. If you support a Nazi, you're a Nazi. So that's how that goes. Trump's a Nazi. Whether you believe it or know it or not, we've all told you this for years. Trump is a Nazi. Trump is very hurt about it. Trump really wants to release the Gestapo against people who call him Nazis or call Charlie Kirk a Nazi. Charlie Kirk was a Nazi, and Trump had another one of his Nazis, Nick Fuentes, activate another one of his Nazis, Tyler Robinson, to kill one of his Nazis, Charlie Kirk, to send a message to you that you guys haven't got yet. How do you guys feel about the Epstein files? Go ahead and let me know in comments. Do you want them released or do you want to keep them secret for your master Trump and Putin? Do you have a better word, Mike? Thank you, L. Aubrey. Wow, out of 9 people, Net and YouTube found an American or a human for my live? That's pretty good. A 10% ratio is pretty good for humans or Americans in my life with what Net and YouTube puts in here. L. Aubrey says, what do you think Trump's attack on free speech is really about? It's Putin and Trump's attack on free speech, right? It's Nazism. Like, isn't that what Nazis do? Burn books and try to cancel channels and fire Jimmy Kimmel? Here's one way to put it. They're saying, are you willing? He's Antichrist too. So from the Antichrist perspective, if Trump's saying, are you willing to replace Jesus with Charlie Kirk? Are you willing to accept Charlie Kirk as a substitute for Jesus? And these people are like, yes, Lord. Yes, I will. And so they've taken the Antichrist bargain. And then they make it worse. They're like, you better worship Charlie Kirk. If you don't worship Charlie Kirk, you can't work. In order to work, you must worship Charlie Kirk. That's what they do. Now, we need to flip that around and do the opposite. If you're spreading these lies about trans people, if you're spreading these Trump lies, we're never listening to you again until you aggressively retract your lies, apologize. So that's the free speech. He's attacking free speech because it's necessary to attack free speech to foist the fascism on everybody. We're not buying it. Like, one of probably his supporters drove their car into the FBI building in Pittsburgh. They're setting people off that they didn't plan on setting off. They probably did plan, well, they definitely did plan on setting off Tyler Robinson because they had plans ready to go for once he was set off and killed Charlie Kirk. Whether they orchestrated it and planned it that directly, and they probably did. They could, he could have had nothing to do with it other than taking the fall. In which case, whatever plan they've enacted, they're completely getting away with it because they've got the wrong guy. White man from town says, is that why you have 10 viewers? Yeah, I have 16 viewers, of which my impression is about 13 of you, 12 of you now, are Netanyahu, Trump, Putin supporting Nazi fascists. Because that's the ratio I usually get from Net and YouTube. You're not supposed to be afraid of me. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to let you know that the terrorist network you in is going to have consequences, and that you should avoid those consequences by leaving that terrorist network, MAGA. Mike says, you need therapy and medication. Hayseed says, I am a Trump voter, but I'm trying to be your friend and find common ground, find a way forward. Do you like Jesus? We have common ground if you like Jesus. It's just Trump is Antichrist. So we can talk more about that, because Trump is just, if you're trying to be nice to me, especially in the midst of all this, and you're like a farmer and stuff, like, you're a victim. You're not the perpetrator here. You're a victim of Trump. And we can help you out of that. I can personally help you out of that. I'd love to be your friend and help you out of that and have you not believe the Trump stuff anymore. And I can help you with whatever becomes a problem. Just think about it. What if Trump was lying to me? And what if this random guy on the internet who says he wants to be my friend is telling the truth. And I think Jesus, if you ask Jesus about it, Jesus can confirm what I'm telling you is true. DX Vernon says, so this guy is the smartest guy in the world. No, I'm just a lot smarter than Trump, Putin, and Elon Musk, and Netanyahu put together. He knows everything about Nazis, Trump, and anyone who doesn't believe his crazy beliefs. I just know all I need to know. All I need to know about you, if you're a Trump or Putin or Netanyahu supporter, is that you have problems. And until we resolve some of those problems, I don't need to know anything else about you. DX Vernon says, see you guys release the Epstein files, but go Trump. I don't know what that means. Do you want the Epstein files released, or do you want Trump to continue? Mike says, Charlie Kirk preached nothing but the golden rule. Nah, I don't think he did that. I think he's a Nazi. Or he was. He's not anymore. Ellie Aubrey, who I think is a decent person, said, L. Aubrey says, if you're a Trump voter, how do you feel about his comment, I hate Democrats, I hate all Democrats? Are you denouncing that? They're not denouncing that, don't worry, but thank you for asking. They're all for that, and, just like I can say I hate all Trump Trump-Hooteniers, but I don't hate you as people, I hate you as Trump Trump-Hooteniers. I hate the ideas that have made you Trump Trump-Hooteniers. White Man from the South says, this guy's super low IQ. Hayseed says, I wouldn't trust the Epstein files. Who knows who added or deleted whose name at this point? That's what they'll tell you. But there's plenty of evidence. Everybody will see just ask the victims. The victims will still tell you that Trump said, she reminded him of his daughter. And, the victims will tell you. White Man from town says, do you get government help to pay your cost of living? You seem sadly equipped. Now, I'm just poor. I just work like other people. And so I don't have a lot of money. And I don't make anything from YouTube. I mean, I might if I did some clerical work on my account. Doo Osan says, dude's been ranting for hours. Do you have any friends or family? Yeah, and in fact, I should be hanging out with my friends and family instead of talking to you guys. But America needs help right now. It's like an emergency. Kash Patel got chat KGB to make up a bunch of transphobic bullshit, and you guys are eating it up, and the media's eating it up. So I'm going to stand up against it. I'm going to speak out against it. Let me read the rest of your comments. What is an Antichrist? Trump and Putin are Antichrist, the opposite of Jesus. So the only good thing about having a clear and obvious Antichrist like Trump in the world right now, or they're trying to make Charlie Kirk into a Christ, but he's an Antichrist. The good thing about having such an obvious one is you just do and say and think all the opposite things of them, and you find Jesus. There's Jesus right there. Everything that's the opposite of everything Trump says, does, and is, Jesus. So it's really, if you know how to work it, it's a really easy path to Jesus. It's like an amazingly fast track to Jesus. L. Aubrey says, Charlie Kirk said trans people should be stoned. I don't think he sounds very loving. Yeah, he's totally not. What did Jesus say about people when they were trying to stone a lady because I think she'd had sex with somebody? Jesus said, stop. He said, let he without sin cast the first stone, supposedly, but he said stop. He stopped them. He wasn't trying to line them up and say, okay, whoever's holiest gets to throw rocks at her first. He wasn't saying that. Okay, that's what y'all are trying to do. Trying to have some competition to who can get up Charlie Kirk's butthole the most, ghost hole the most, and whatever, make that person the next president. Michael Covington said Charlie never said that. I'm pretty sure Charlie said it. Charlie said a lot of stuff. We don't need to repeat it because it's all hate speech. L. Aubrey said Charlie Kirk woman claiming to be raped are liars. Exactly. Yeah. You don't have to go into that. I know Charlie Kirk's terrible. I'll protect the fact that Charlie Kirk is terrible here. They're the ones trying to get you to replace Jesus with Charlie Kirk. They're the ones trying to get you to say, are you willing to replace Jesus with Charlie Kirk? Okay, what if we make it where you can't work unless you replace Jesus with Charlie Kirk? Unless you worship Charlie Kirk, you can't work. What if they make it like that? They're making it like that right now. That's no different than what they're doing. They're saying, if you don't worship Charlie Kirk, you can't work. That's what they're trying to do. They're the most terrible Antichrist people that have ever existed. Okay, but we're going to take their churches away. Check out the hashtag Church of Judas for taking their churches away. Deep priests Bible verses more than you, says Mike. I don't even know what that means. L. Aubrey, sorry that YouTube keeps hiding your comments. Net and YouTube keeps hiding it to protect rapists, to protect child molesters. Charlie Kirk said that if his daughter were violently, he would force her to carry her. Yeah, he did say that. I saw the clip of him saying that. The rapist baby. That sounds pretty violent. Yeah, he's a pro-rape Nazi Trump-Putineer. He's like all Trump-Putineers, pro-rape, pedophiles. They're all terrible. He's sitting there having that fantasy about somebody raping his daughter. That's Charlie Kirk for you. That's a quote. I saw the video. Yeah, sorry, you can't argue with that. You're just protecting Groypers and Nazis and pedophiles. Whether you're protecting the Groyper wing, who shot Charlie Kirk, or you're protecting the Zionist wing, who shot hundreds of thousands of kids in Gaza for Trump and Putin. Whichever side of that you're on, just say which side of that you're on. Groyper or Zionist? Which side of that are you guys? Groypers or Zionists? G or Z? You can just put a G or Z in comments, so we'll know which ones you are. Mike says, good luck, you pathetic little quest. I don't know what a quest is. He probably wanted to call me like a queen or a queer or something. L. Aubrey says, Charlie Kirk said a lot of hateful and divisive things. That was part of his shtick. Yeah, that's who he was. He's a fearmonger. He's a typical Klansman. He was just a Zionist Klansman. He's the Zionist branch. It just shows how they do it. Okay, there's the Zionist branch and the Klan, the old school Klan branch that hates Jewish people. You can hate Zionism and love Jewish people and just be a normal fucking person, but they have to carve out the Zionists who insist that any criticism of genocide is anti-Semitic, and they have to carve out that's Charlie Kirk, and they have to carve out the Nick Fuentes side that's like, okay, we're trying to be as close to the Nazis as we can possibly be, including, trying to be against Jewish people. That's Nick Fuentes, that's the Groypers, and of course he's going to have somebody kill Charlie Kirk. Yeah, and they should be mad at people quoting Charlie Kirk's words. Everyone's mad about that. They'll fire you. If you have a job in the media right now, they will fire you for quoting Charlie Kirk right now, or saying that he was saying that his killer was MAGA, which is true. They fired Jimmy Kimmel. They kicked Jimmy Kimmel out, canceled his show for saying that the killer was MAGA, that it's MAGA on MAGA violence, and it totally is. The killer is MAGA. The killer's a Trump-Putineer. He follows Nick Fuentes. He's a Groyper. That means he's the anti-Semitic side, not Charlie Kirk's Zionist side. He's the anti-Semitic side of the terrorist network that Trump and Putin run. Okay? Like, it's not that hard, people. Like, I've been repeating the same thing over and over again for days. White man from town says AI is making the story up for him. No. Kash Patel asked Chat KGB, hey, can you make me some transfic, some trans fanfic about Tyler Robinson? That's what happened. There's a whole text exchange that Kash Patel made up. Like, it's really obvious that Kash Patel made it up. L says, yes, they are loving and inclusive. Wouldn't you want to hear them repeatedly? Yeah, she's mocking the fact that Charlie Kirk's words are not Charlie KKK. Exactly, Skylar. Thank you for being here. Thank you for contributing. By the way, we are going to replace their churches with the Church of Judas. Check out the hashtag Church of Judas. While they're burning down our libraries and schools and government and trying to censor us and fire us, we're going to be replacing their churches. Okay, check out the hashtag Church of Judas. That's no joke. Also, check out the Pillar Revolution, Peace Pipe Party, Fairy Liberation Front, Grab 'em by the Posse. Skimmy Swigs is a Nazi pedophile. Quote scriptures or shut the fuck up. Jesus set Judas aside outside of Christianity. No Christian churches worship or honor Judas because Judas is outside of Christianity. Judas didn't do any of the things that Christianity did. And now he's authorized to come back and replace all your churches. Check out the hashtag Church of Judas. It's really cool. I do a lot of content on it. And I wrote a book, The Book of Judas, about it. Mitchell Covington says, Charlie never ever said anything about stoning anyone. Look it up. Yeah, I don't believe you. I believe L. You're the one trying to protect Charlie Kirk. So you're the one trying to say, hey, you must accept Charlie Kirk instead of Jesus. You must replace Jesus with Charlie Kirk, or we're not going to allow you to work. You're one of those. What we're going to do is the opposite. If you accept Charlie Kirk, if you promote Trump's lies about trans people, if you accept Kash Patel's Chat KGB transfic, we're never listening to you again until you make up for that by pointing out that it's Groypers, that it's Trump, that it's Putin. White man from town says, no one is trying to do that. You are a very stupid, stupid man. Hey Seed says, I want to get past the politicians and policies. Find common in what we want for the average person in America. We want a future. Let's say we want a future. We want a future where everyone has everything they need. Everyone. We're not trying to find a group that we're going to leave out or a group that we're going to deport. In fact, we should give automatic citizenship to everyone ICE contacted. Spread that idea around. My channel is highly suppressed. So if you're one of the 2 or 3 good people in here, spread that idea around. Automatic citizenship for everyone they contact is a very neutral way to say it. Automatic citizenship for all ICE victims is a more accurate way to say it. All automatic citizenship for everyone ICE terrorizes is another accurate way to say it. But to get less censorship, you could say automatic citizenship for everyone they contact. And there shouldn't be anything that they want to censor out of that. And we should get that idea out there. Once we get a politician or somebody with a big platform to say it, we'll overthrow Trumpism. Mitchell Covington said, we don't worship JFK, but he was killed for the same thing. Y'all make things up and say too many times you believe it. They're trying to get you to replace Jesus with Charlie Kirk. They're trying to make sure that your idea of Jesus is so weak and so Antichrist already that if you replace it with Charlie Kirk, you won't know the difference, or that'll be fine. You know, if Charlie Kirk is your new Jesus, you won't be missing anything because your old Jesus was nothing. Your old Jesus was a lie. Your old Jesus was an Antichrist Jesus. So if you want Jesus, we can talk Jesus. Okay? See if any of you guys are saying anything. It's a lot of skimmy swigs. He's a Nazi pedophile, so I might not read any more comments. But no one is trying to do that. Let's see. Politicians. We don't worship JFK. God gives you power. That was a question asked, not something he offered up. I'm not sure what that was talking about. It's downright schizophrenic. He was shot right after questioning Israel. Yeah, skimmy swigs. Are we going to agree on something? That Candace Owens has a point? That Israel is involved? Or Israel had a plan for the Charlie Kirk shooting? Are we going to agree on something? Because I notice the only thing you'll agree on with me on something is something that other people would call anti-Semitic. So because you're probably a Nazi, a Groiper, you're probably a Klansman Groiper, like the Nick Fuentes branch, you're not a Zionist, you're probably a Klansman Groiper, a Trump-Putineer who's anti-Israel or anti-Jewish people. You can be anti-Zionist and anti what Israel is doing and pro-Jewish people. In fact, the only way to really be pro-Jewish people is to be against the leaders of a country that's trying to destroy them or trying to turn the world against them. Kind of like the only way to be American is to be against Trump trying to destroy us and trying to turn the world against us. Duncan says, boy, you're fucking dumb. Ryan Blackman says, lay off the amphetamines, educate yourself. Mark says, you finally answered the question. Which question, Mark? Mitchell Covington said, no, they are kicked and fired for laughing about someone being assassinated. You act like you support that. Why can't people laugh? Skimmy Swig says, you've got no proof that the Discord leaks between him and the trans boyfriend, which another parents also backed up, were faked. Yeah, you do. You have all the proof in the world. Every line in that transcript of the Transfic that Kash Patel wrote with ChatGPT is proof. Every line is proof. Everybody can tell. Okay, the fact that you're doing it means you're covering for Israel, Skimmy Swigs. Do you realize you're covering for Israel now? You realize you're covering for Netanyahu? Mark says, complete nut job. God gives you the potential, says Charlie Kirk led people to Jesus. Nope, he led people to the Antichrist. They're asking you now to replace Jesus with Charlie Kirk. And most of you are saying, yes, that's fine. Your Jesus was nothing. I'll lead you to Jesus, but the path to Jesus goes through Judas right now. You must betray your evil masters, Trump and Putin and Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes. Look at the revival of the world right now. Is there a revival? Oh, cool. I hadn't heard. I haven't been outside. Josephus Flavius. What about Josephus Flavius? Skimmy Swigs, you Nazi pedophile. Foreign Warren. Foreign Warren, that's a cool name. He said, God gives you your potential. That's a cool statement. Thank you for saying that. I say the goddess, but, you know, Jesus is from the goddess, but sure. Skimmy Swigs. Gnostic Gospels from the early 1st, 3rd century can't be traced back to the apostles. Right. So is the Gospel of Judas, of which I will try to tell you about how Jesus set Judas aside to come back at this time and replace all Christianity, end all patriarchy, Christianity, war, and Trumpism. Okay? I'm the expert on that. It's the most Gnostic thing there is. It's like Gnosticism final form. It's Christianity final form. So sit back and listen and maybe share some of the information I'm telling you instead of trolling me with your Nazi, Groiper, Nick Fuentes BS. I might be able to save you from going down with the Groiper terrorist cell. Okay? And you might be able to save Jesus from these Antichrist Christians. Bowhunter 493 says, you have literally zero intellectual capacity, LMFAO. Foreign Warren says, MAGA ideas of Christianity is so twisted. Exactly. MAGA Christianity is Antichrist. But then again, most Christianity is Antichrist. We can't blame Jesus for, or do we blame Jesus for Hitler? Do we blame Jesus for Putin? Do we blame Jesus for Trump? No. And we shouldn't blame Jesus for Hitler or Putin or Trump. But we should blame Christianity for Hitler and Putin and Trump. Like, that shows how different Christianity is from Jesus. Jesus is not responsible for those fascist evil leaders. Christianity is responsible for those fascist evil leaders. It's not never the two shall meet, yeah. And there's plenty of good Christians who are in it for Jesus, but they're in the wrong thing for Jesus. Ryan Trout says, only person that's anti-Jesus is you. Nope, I'm the only person who's speaking up for Jesus here, besides maybe one or two people in comments, because Net and YouTube likes to find a bunch of terrorist magas for me. But again, are you guys on the Zionist side of Trump's terrorist network, or are you on the Klan Nazi side, the Nick Fuentes Groyper side, who shot Charlie Kirk? Which side of those are you on? Groyper? G for Groyper or Z for Zionist? Duncan says, go to work and get a job instead of doing the stupid stream. I've wasted my lunch watching this. Well, it might have saved your life once the ideas sink in. So you're welcome. Maybe your life's not worth that much, but you're welcome. Skimmy Swigs, who is, as far as I can tell, a Nazi and a pedophile, but also has some knowledge of Gnosticism, so has been gone down the right-wing pipeline from Gnosticism to fascism, which is terrible that they've even co-opted Gnosticism with their fascist misinformation. Skimmy Swigs, he just calls people, stop typing. I'm trying to read Skimmy Swigs' comment. Show some respect to Skimmy Swigs, even if he is a Nazi pedophile. Skimmy Swigs says, he just calls people a pedo and Nazi when he's afraid to argue with them. I'd be glad to argue with you. But if you support Trump, I'm going to call you a Nazi and a pedophile because that's what you are by supporting Trump. Afraid to argue with people. This is more Skimmy Swigs. I've to debate IRL or even show my face on YouTube Live, but you keep ducking me, pussy. What am I ducking? Please repeat the question. As you can see, I will reveal the comment even if Net and YouTube hides it. I will reveal the comment and talk to you respectfully. Hayseed, can we please stop calling each other names? Just gets into emotions. Okay, I'll try to avoid that, but I have to point out for new people to the stream that if I'm reading someone's comment and I think they're a Nazi and a pedophile because they support Trump, I just want to go ahead and remind people that that's what supporting Trump makes you. A Nazi, a pedophile, a traitor, a terrorist. You can stop being that and I'll stop calling you that. Foreign Warren says, Duncan, don't watch Den Simp. Mark says, nah, I don't know what simp means. I'm not an insa-libertarian. Mark says, no, this is solid entertainment. This dude needs an asylum. So Mark is like Charlie Kirk, who thinks that certain people should be in an asylum just because he doesn't understand them. Or because he knows that his viewpoint is threatening their lives and their existence, and he therefore wants to justify his viewpoint and say that their lives and existence don't matter. Sweep them off to an asylum, or worse, so that my terrible viewpoints don't get obstructed by their existence. That's what, just like they want to arrest homeless people for being homeless because it makes them feel bad about the fact that they made them homeless. Okay. Shimmy Swigs says, by the way, I just pointed out Israel's manipulation of our politics long before you were even crying into a phone. I don't think so. You should check my channel. You should scroll back to how far I go back. I'm just put a date on that, Skimmy Swigs. How long have you been calling out Israel? God gives you your potential, says make insane asylums great again. Shimmy Swigs says, I can tell you how. Just explain your ideas for once in your life. What part are you struggling with, Skimmy Swigs? I'll explain it to you. Netanyahu, Putin, and Trump had Nick Fuentes, a anti-Semitic Nazi groyper, Tyler Robinson, kill Trump and Putin and Netanyahu's agent, Charlie Kirk. What part of that do you not understand? Admin is chicken shit calling people simps. I don't know. I don't use the word simps. Duncan says things. Foreign Warren says the guy believing in invisible men. God gives you potential says wrong. Mark says, I already asked you and you kept dodging the question. What question? Define fascism. Look it up. It's Trump and Putin and Netanyahu if you don't know. It's Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes if you don't know. Nick Fuentes had somebody kill Charlie Kirk, calling him a fascist as if that's a bad thing, when he actually is just not as fascist as Nick Fuentes is. Or they're just different brands of fascists. There's the Zionist fascist and there's the Klan fascist. They're all in the Trump terrorist network. Those are fascists. You call everyone everything, so I want to know what people need to be to do in order to hit your magical fascist status. It's a lot of different things. Even NPR is being fascist by having the expert, a journalist who's an expert on Nick Fuentes and Charlie Kirk, come on to spread information and to distract from the fact that Tyler Robinson's a groyper. Skimmy Schwig says, no one is saying you have to worship Charlie Kirk. Yeah, they're saying you have to worship Charlie Kirk or you are not allowed to work. That's what they're saying right now. And we need to flip that around and say, if you support Charlie Kirk, we're never listening to you again. If you promote Trump's lies and Kash Patel's chat KGB Transfic lies, then you need to undo that before anybody pays attention to you. I said, go ahead and make fun of him. I'll just make fun of him. God, you're a coward. Well, we'll make fun of each other then. That'll be fun. Won't that be fun? Won't we get some good jokes out of that? Mitchell Covington says, I will say that your point about us being able to laugh, yes, I agree, but if Kamala Harris was murdered or a family member was murdered, you wouldn't think this was okay to laugh. Can't you understand? I mean, I guess, like, I wasn't laughing when the MAGA terrorists murdered the congresswoman up in Minnesota, but you guys were also just blowing right by that. You were brushing that under the rug as fast as you could. You were kind of laughing at it and yeah, you probably were laughing at it. You probably were making jokes about that. So, sorry, but not sorry. God gives you understanding. No one worships Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk never asked anyone to worship anything other than gospel and Jesus Christ. Well, now they are. Now the Antichrist is using Charlie, and Charlie Kirk did do that. Charlie Kirk's not a good person. He's not a Jesus person. He might be a Christian, but just shows how Antichrist Christianity is. Jesus is from the goddess, by the way. Jesus is super feminist, by the way. God gives you your potential, says Charlie was a martyr, very comparable to Stephen. Nope, he's not at all. He's not comparable to anyone. He's comparable to Nick Fuentes, the guy who got him killed. R.O. War says, what did Putin do? Russia has elections and his people chose him. His people chose him. Putin just invaded Poland. Putin just started a war with America and NATO. And Trump's helping him. So Trump's a traitor. Gimme Swig says, because there was a religious aspect to World War II, and the current wars means Christianity is to blame, you have no critical thought. No, I mean, that is critical thought. They were Christian. Like, the Nazis were Christians. Trump Putiners are Christians. All these people that support Putin they just mentioned are Christians. It just shows that Christianity is shoddy, that God is fake. Jesus is from the goddess. Your God is a dangerous lie. We are on the side of Jesus. I don't think so. I think you're on the Antichrist side. Trembling Thomas says, Antichrist is defined as those who deny Jesus' sacrifice for our sins and his resurrection. You can't declare him as having sacrificed for your sins and risen and be Antichrist. Yeah, you can. They've given you that definition to give cover to when the Antichrist shows up and hijacks your religion. Duncan laughs. Shimmy Swig says, prove that I'm anything you call me. It's not that important. Just stop being. If you were the things that I'm calling you, stop being that. If not, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I misread. I thought you supported Trump. Foreign Warren says, are you very dumb? Putin eliminated his competition, vote against him in Russia, and see what happens to your family. Yeah. And Putin would eliminate even a top supporter to send a message to the other ones, just like Trump and Netanyahu did to Charlie Kirk. God gives you your potential. We are racists or Russian informants 10 years ago. Well, stop being racist and Russian informants now. You've been racist and Russian informants for 10 years. Stop being racist and Russian informants. Skimmy Sweet says, you're ducking IRL debates, confrontation, or even live stream Zoom call debate in which I will show my fucking face. No one ducked that. I don't remember the offer, but you're not doing very well at a text debate. So start a text debate. Keep saying you want to dox me. You're too scared to see my face. If I wanted to dox you, I would want to see your face. I don't care. Stop interjecting your self-importance in the conversation. It's just, let's talk about Jesus, okay? Let's talk about Gnosticism. Let's talk about something that you want to talk about. And I can talk to you in text. I'm reading your text. What more do you want? AI proven inaccurate. Auro Yard, he's the only person who's making good comments lately. Everyone generalized because they can't specify, then are quick to insult. Shows the low info they got. Propaganda sponges that just repeat. Yeah, Trumpootineers. I call them Trumpootineers because they're working for Trump and Putin. They all are. Hayseed. And he's just a... Hayseed is like trying to be friends. So whatever political stuff he's been subjected to, we can cure that. I mean, all of us, right, left, middle, trade ideas, not insults. That'd be better. Yeah, trading ideas. Let's focus on ideas. I'll stop trying to tell everybody what everybody is, because you should know if people support MAGA, what they are. X Jimmy Swig says, the only person saying the opposing viewpoints need to be silenced is you. Zero self-awareness. No, actually, y'all are the ones. You just fired Jimmy Kimmel. Like, how can you say that after just firing Jimmy Kimmel? God gives you your potential, says you think you can repeat the same lies over and over and make them true. I got to shut this down because it's almost an hour long. Corporations and countries go against their opposition in the time. No shit. I don't think I can read all the comments. You can probably read them. The pivot. Religion has always been a means of control. That one Texan, yes. But Jesus set Judas aside. Check out hashtag Church of Judas. Judas is outside of Christianity, but he's about to come back in and replace all the Christian churches. I'm going to read RAR's comments and no others. Now this dude is stating that he's why the killer did what he did. Apparently we don't need law enforcement when you got Euless, this Euless bonehead. Oh, well, I mean, I know why he did what he did. I mean, it's obvious. He's a groiper. He did it because it serves Putin and Trump's anti-trans thing. Maybe I won't read RER's last comment. Asking the elections are honest, not counter-argument when politicians have used it over and over again in the last decade. State something with substance weren't always generalization. At least RER criticized Putin. That's the important thing, because Putin's behind Trump, behind Nick Fuentes, attacking Putin, behind Trump, behind Charlie Kirk. Anyway, I don't know. He's calmer than usual. He's probably had his meds. He's tried to swat a church before. Oh, Skimmy Swigs, you're in that terrorist network with NinjaCon 64. What is it? Syrian Orthodox? A Syrian Orthodox church? I didn't swat a church. I was going to identify that church and call them up and tell them that they have a terrorist cell in their church, because you guys are a terrorist cell. I could have saved Charlie Kirk. You know? I could have saved Charlie Kirk by exposing your terrorist cell. What, 2 years ago, 3 years ago is what you're talking about? The doxing a church episode, when you specifically and other people in your clan post an address that you're trying to dox me. You post an address in my chat and on my comments. You're trying to whine about doxing. Yeah, Trumpootineers are Space Force in the streets, Flat Earth in the sheets. But I shouldn't talk to you anymore. Ghost Samurai, you get the last minute. Christians, have you been covered in the blood of a period cycle lately? Ghost Samurai says that. Weird. See how weird that sounds? What makes change? That's a good point. Ghost Samurai. What makes changing it to Jesus' blood make it better? But really, we can't blame Jesus for this, okay? Again, Jesus set Judas aside. Check out hashtag Church of Judas. Jesus set Judas aside to replace all patriarchy, Christianity, war, and Trumpism. So we're going to do that. And that'll fix everything. It replaces war. It ends war. Ariel, so I see how Euless just sandwiching Trump, Putin, Kirk. Give us some actual lore, my guy. What are the details? You'll have to look at my content. All of my content explains it lately. Trump, Putin, Charlie Kirk, Trump, Putin, Nick Fuentes. Same team, same network, just different branches of the same network. It becomes really obvious when you see that Putin's running. And same with Netanyahu. Putin runs Trump and Netanyahu. Okay? Putin runs Trump and Netanyahu and Iran. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's never a war between them. Whose side were you on? Putin and Iran's, or Putin and Netanyahu's, or Putin and Trump's? My address and full name only got started posting after you attempted to swat a church. What? No, everything you just said is a lie. It's not my address. I don't know who you're trying, what poor old lady you're trying to get killed because you're trying to incite terroristic violence. But that's all that does is make you a terrorist. Okay? And no one ever tried to swat a church. Like I just told you, I was going to call the church once I got you to admit what church it was to let them know that they had a terrorist cell working there. And it would have helped out a lot. It could have saved Charlie Kirk. But y'all don't really want that. You want to use him as a martyr and get people to replace Jesus with Charlie Kirk. It's evil and wrong. But Judas replaces all your churches. So deal with that instead.